Today, I'm joined by Tommy Robinson, a very outspoken political activist and author of Enemy of the State. Now, I don't think there's anyone more qualified to talk about the effects of mass migration and Islamism in Europe. Tommy witnessed firsthand the Islamification of his town, and he spent his time tirelessly looking to warn others about the dangers that posed. His activism has made him the victim of physical and ideological attack throughout his time as a campaigner. The media have waged a campaign to discredit and silence him. After very publicly leaving the EDL in 2013, Tommy made a very recent return to political life. He's been doing the rounds on the Rebel Media and the Rubin Report, so we're so glad today to have him on the New Brit. So Tommy, what else have you been doing since leaving the EDL?
Trying to get my family life back on track.
That's cool.
So, obviously I formed the English Defence League in 2009. Yeah. When I formed the English Defence League, I'm a father of three. When I formed the English Defence League, I had a successful business. I had 7 properties. I was doing very well in business. Then my life turned upside down. I then started opposing Islam, and I pretty much had the state come down on me like nothing I could have expected. And I was imprisoned. I lost my businesses, and then the side effect that would have had on my family. So since leaving the English Defence League in 2013. All I started to then focus on was my kids, my wife. Because to be honest, I neglected my family for my belief. I did, and so to lead, I would have been a great leader of the English Defence League, and people would have said I was a great leader. But I probably was a great leader because I wasn't a great husband, and I wasn't a great dad, and I wasn't a great family man. For the sake of that, I put the cause before everything. And the reason I put the cause before everything was because I didn't think it mattered how much money I had or how successful I was, because the inevitable outcome for my children at some point in their lifetime is going to be conflict. And I was of the opinion that if there's going to be conflict, let it be me battling it rather than my son. So since leaving in 2013, I've concentrated on that, and then I don't know how now, looking back, I really don't know how I did it.
So let's talk about Sweden. Why do you think our Western media have been so silent about all this stuff?
I think they're guilty. I think they've played their part. They've played their part in attacking people who have opposed it. They've played their part. Same with like currently now. If we look at Sweden, why are the left wing socialist government denying it? Because if they accept it and admit it, then it's their fault. They've imported it. They've done it. If they do that, they will add voters and add support to the Swedish Democrat Party, which is now the rising right-wing party, the most popular one. And that's the same in each country. And also their hands are dirty. All of their hands are dirty. If women are being raped at an incredible level across Europe from mainly Muslim migrants, which is how it's happening. If this is happening, and if we just look at what happened in Rotherham, we look at the tactics they used in Rotherham. For 20 to 30 years, there was conspiracy of silence between political leaders, religious leaders, police leaders, everyone who knew what was happening. They all knew what was happening to these young kids. So they knew English girls were being raped. When you hear the horror stories of what was happening to these, they denied it. They didn't accept it. Exactly the same happening now in Sweden. It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
In Sweden. When I listen to Swedish people talking, I listen to interviews with them, I just think, are you insane? Like, how are you blaming yourself? How are you... And that's the way which you can see, which generation after generation, it's all to do with how they've been... what the media have taught them, what their government have taught them, what the schools have taught them. Even, for example, now, in Britain, this is going to go off topic, but in Britain, I have 3 young children. My 9-year-old daughter, I was preparing for a debate I was about to have, and I had all my pamphlets, all my notes pad in my kitchen. And her and her daughter walked past, her and her friend walked past, and she saw something about Donald Trump. And her friend said, "Donald Trump, he's like Hitler." God. And I said, "Where have you heard that? Like, where have you heard that?" "Oh, at school. Yeah, at school. We'll talk about it at school." They're 9 years old. My 7-year-old son. Yeah, he come home saying Donald Trump's an idiot. Yeah, he's 7, and he said we was allowed to say naughty words today as long as it was about Donald Trump. The teacher had let them say naughty words as long as it was about Donald Trump. I said, what? I said, what do you mean he's an idiot? He wants to stop Muslim. This is my 7-year-old son. This is a son that I don't teach my children my views. Yeah, I think they're children. Let them be children. Okay, it's exactly the same. When my daughter was going to, I had the biography of Muhammad out. My daughter walked past and said, "Muhammad, peace be upon him."
I remember you saying that in an interview. Yeah,
it's infuriating. Yeah, So this is happening not just to my children. This is happening across the educational system, across the West, across Britain, across Europe, and it's exactly. And I've felt so many circumstances like this where, even for example, when I was at the Euros at football in France, I met these German men.
Yeah.
Talking to these German men, young men like ourselves, yeah, young, similar backgrounds, and I said about Angela Merkel, and he said she's great. Yeah, this lad did. I said she's destroying Europe. I said, do you understand what Islam's going to do to Europe? And he said, Islam's the most peaceful of all religions. Now, this is what he said, yeah? No. And that's what I did. I spat my drink out and said, are you for real? And I said, what do you base that on? Yeah? I said, have you read the Quran? And he just stood there. I said, you haven't, have you? What do you know about Muhammad? And he knew nothing. I said, so automatically, you, as a German, as a young man, your automatic reaction instilled in you, which has been installed in you from the education system, is that Islam is peaceful. And it's like the word jihad. When they're teaching the word jihad, I've seen in the schools are teaching the kids it's an inner struggle. It does not mean inner struggle. Okay, so when you're trying to combat this, so if you look now, you've got a whole generation of kids, or certainly in the schools now, who are being brought up already from junior school. My children are 7 and 9. Now I have enough problems as it is with my kids in the schooling system because of who I am and because of my beliefs. So, but already from age 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, these children are being brought up to hate Donald Trump and to think negatively of Donald Trump. Of the one leader of the free world that is going to actually oppose what is happening, they're being taught as school children. It's the same with the education system the whole way through, universities, whatever system you look at. And so
they're indoctrinating children.
They're indoctrinating a generation, the previous generation after generation. Any left-wing governments, for example, Sweden has indoctrinated its population to believe that this is acceptable.
So where do you think our universities are actually going with all this? I mean, how are they going to look in a couple of years?
The university system seems to be completely taken over by far left, Marxist, communist ideas.
Yeah.
And professors who promote that as well. We live in a post-free speech era. Once we understand that, it may be hard for people to accept that. I've accepted that. Yeah? So the country I thought I lived in 2000, prior to 2009, is a very different country than I now know I live in.
Yeah.
I thought I lived in the land of freedom and democracy, the land of free speech. We show the world what it's about. The reality is very, very different. You'd question if you heard my stories of what's happened to myself laid out, and you didn't know what country they're in, you'd probably guess China, Russia, for the attacks I've had against myself for my political activism. It's like when I held our first Pegida rally in the UK, I marched us into the middle of nowhere, into a disused car park at an airport. Because it's the only place I thought we could take our supporters where they can be safe, because people want to bring their family, their kids. If you want to create an atmosphere for normal people to protest, you can't in the UK.
Yeah.
Whatever city centre you choose, you'll be violently attacked by Muslims, and you'll be violently attacked by government-funded far left attack groups like Antifa, like Unite Against Fascism. The way they behave, even from the background I'm from, and some people, if you go through my history, I don't deny the facts. I don't deny any of my history. At times, I've been violent in my history as a young man. I'm from Luton Town. Luton Town was rated the roughest town in the UK.
Yeah.
It's a very violent town. So in the upbringing I've had, I'm still shocked by the way these people behave.
Yeah, of course.
It's unbelievable. The way they behave towards women, the way they behave towards anybody with a difference of opinion to them. They are the definition of fascists.
A lot of people are saying that Europe is a lost cause. I mean, when you compare Muslim birth rates to that of indigenous Europeans, just going by those stats, the majority will vote to end democracy by 2070. So, is there any hope left? I mean, should we just give up?
I think that I come home once to these exact questions, and it was from my wife's nan. She said, it's too late. Yeah? I was always, it's too late, give up, it's too late.
That's what people say.
If everyone had that attitude in the 1930s, yeah, and they gave up and they thought it's too late, because it didn't look like you'd beat him, it didn't look like you'd win. If everyone had that attitude, I just don't see how it is too late if things continue the way they are. Yeah? There is so much that can be done and will be done, and to be honest, I don't see, I know that everyone says it, there is going to be a huge conflict, yeah, because people are, Well, again, I switch my mind as well. Is I always ask myself, would people rise up as well? I have this, like, when I struggle myself to see for years, where is this going?
Yeah.
Is this, and it's exactly that. I'd be questioning myself, am I sacrificing my life here, for something that no one cares about? And I felt like that. And at times, when I got put in prison, I thought, I am. Because I'm on my own now, and my kids are out there, and my wife's out there. No one cares. I think that something's going to happen. It's going to give. I think that moment will be when Geert Wilders gets elected or Marine Le Pen gets elected. Whenever a European leader gets elected who tries to stop Islam, when they try in any way to stop Islam, you can't. Yeah. When you do, Muslims will riot. They will get extremely violent. It's like now in this country. Could we ban the burqa? Not a chance.
No.
You can't even stop. You can't even stop FGM. You can't even stop FGM.
Yeah.
If you try and ban the burqa, the police won't be able to enforce that law. Because the minute they go into a Muslim area and try and take a burqa off a lady, there's going to be a riot and they're going to come under intense attack. And they know that. They know that. We know that. So the first minute a European leader gets in, that's going to bring it to a head.
You said in the 1930s people stood up for this country. And I would say that's because they were proud of this country. They were allowed to be patriotic. And now they aren't.
If I look at all of my friends around me when the English Defence League started, what happened in the first 6 months of the English Defence League started, the police kicked my doors off 3 times. Now, what that did, that installs fear in all of my friends. So everyone who's got most of my friends got good jobs and careers. They all have to then think, Jesus, look what they've just done to him. You're gonna, and the reality is, if you are very vocal and critical of Islam in the UK and you hold a good job, you're going to lose it.
Yeah, you will.
That's the reality. So everyone's scared. So everyone's into silence, but I don't know what the moment will be that will really change that. I think with Donald Trump getting in, it's shifting. I think Brexit, I think we'll see what happens with Wilders, Le Pen, but I think to say it's too late, I think I just could never accept that. No matter what, I'd never want to say, well, we're giving up. We're giving up, because I just think it's cowardice.
So, do you think national pride will ever make a comeback?
Oh, it's on its way back, yeah. A revolution's happening, a political one, and it certainly is. It certainly is, yeah. But you should have national pride.
Of course.
That's not anything that shouldn't be installed in our... Do you know what? So that should be installed in young Muslims in the UK, yeah? It's like when I look to America, I think they have it better than us in the sense that if you have a Muslim in America, yeah, whether it be from Pakistan or Iraq, he's proud American. That's what I find, is they're American, yeah?
Yeah, they are.
They say, if you say, where are you from? American.
And they all have flags in their front garden from
Stop a Pakistani in Luton.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Pakistan. I'm Pakistani. Yeah. They've got no sense of pride or identity to our country, and that, partly, I guess that could be our fault. Because we welcomed all these people in and we told them that all cultures were acceptable. We told them that they can create their own areas and they can stick to their own identity and they can continue the way they have in their previous country, which they shouldn't have been told that, and they shouldn't have been allowed to. In Luton, I'll tell you straight, there's no integration. Yeah. It's Muslim, non-Muslim. The school I went to, you have the Muslim playground, non-Muslim playground. Every school. Yeah? That's it. It's not divided by race or colour. It's divided by religion. Yeah? Now, my friend who lives in Biggleswade, they've got a few Muslims there. Yeah? Not many. And when I was talking to him about the problems in Luton, he goes, "No, they're not like that where we are. They're proper sound. Yeah? The Muslim kids." He goes, "They're just like they're all with us. Yeah? They're all quite integrated." It's because of how many they've got. There's no mosque in Biggleswade. Yeah? So if they were allowed a chance to integrate into a British society because we create ghettos, which we do in Luton, where if Muslims come, they just all got head there because they want to be near the mosques. We've got 30 mosques now in one area, really. Yeah. One big area. Now, if they weren't the mosques, we wouldn't have the indoctrination, we wouldn't have the Saudi teachings, we wouldn't have the teachings of non-integration, we wouldn't have the anti-British views, we wouldn't have the anti-Semitic views, we wouldn't have all of this being taught into them. So, again, the Muslims that are growing up in Biggleswade, I see that they're not practicing.
What do you think our government needs to do to combat all this?
What can they do now? It's so deep. It's like we should not have madrasas in the UK. We shouldn't have any. Least of all funded and the people dictating what's being taught in there is Saudi Arabia. It's insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity for the future generations of our children, for the future British generations. It's insanity. Well, there's so much they can do. Even when you talk about the birth rate, if we say I think it's 5.6 kids Muslims have on average.
Yeah.
But if you look at my imam, my local imam's got 3 wives, 14 kids. Yeah? How do I compete with that?
Yeah.
How do we, generation after generation? But what can we do for that? Give benefits, 2 children, no more. We're actually paying for it.
Incentivizing it.
We are.
Yeah.
We're encouraging it. You can have 3 wives in 3 separate houses and we'll pay for all your kids.
Yeah.
And that's they see that as part of their cause, part of their jihad, is to have babies. So many of them are quoted as saying it. So there's so much we could do. We shouldn't have any Saudi money coming into our country, any Qatari money, any Iranian money. They used to fall into schools or the education system. When you put people are going to prison, it's like, I don't know, when I'm reading about Muhammad and Muhammad's history, and you read that he went out to the hills where all the outcasts of society had been put. Right, which, when I draw the comparison to what's happening here with our prison system, yeah, he went out and he gave them all this cause. Yeah, so basically all the convicts, all the criminals. People are at their weakest and most vulnerable. Whenever they're at their weakest, most vulnerable, we see Islam pouncing. Whether that be on Freshers Week at universities, when kids go away from home, yeah, they're susceptible to this. Yeah, they need a belonging, they need a group. In the prison system, it's exactly the same. And if people see it with their own eyes, like I know and I've seen how bad it is, and I understand what's happening, and I was still shocked at just how bad our prison system is. Wood Hill Prison, maximum security prison, is an ISIS training camp. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And if you could stand there, so I sat one time. I in the end I had to have secure visits on my own because everyone wanted to kill me. And I'm sat up on this balcony looking, and as I look down on the prisoner hall, there must be, say, there's 100 men with their families coming to see them. And I just looked at how many of them had the big beards. Yeah, because the big beards, how many of them that aren't Asian, that aren't Pakistani, yeah, it's whites, it's blacks, everyone's converted. Yeah? And they've converted to the biggest gang in the system. It's used for power, it's used for control. If you could see the what is actually happening. So I went from prison to prison, I went to 5 prisons, and I saw that the toughest, most violent men in our society are all converting to Islam. And they're all coming out, I think it's 600 a year, our security services have said, are coming out radicalised into our country, yeah, from the prison system.
Yeah.
And I had one of my best friends, Barry, he's now called Imran. He was sentenced to 4.5 years when he was probably 21. He's now a radical, yeah, converted in prison. We obviously don't have any contact anymore, but we were best friends through growing up. So I've seen the effect it can have on all of these people, and nothing's being done to address it. Now, 90% of the imams in the prison system are Deobandi. Yeah? A conservative, strict, radical form of Islam. We allow 90% of the imams in a Deobandi. Yeah? It's like, it's insane. I personally don't think there should be any religion in universities. I don't think there should be any religion in the... again, it's wrong, I think, to tarnish all the other religions. I don't think Islam... If you've got these Muslims who David Cameron and our politicians keep telling us aren't Muslims, okay? Or they're not Muslims. But if they're not Muslims, they don't need a Quran. They don't need to go to mosque. They don't need halami. Yeah? Because you keep telling us they're not Muslims. They're committing all these terrorist acts, and you're saying it's not. It goes against Islam. This is what you're all saying. Well, why are you allowing them? Because that's what it is. And when the call goes to prayer in prison, I remember sitting there looking and just watching everyone get up, just thinking, Jesus, everyone's Muslim. Yeah. And that is, and there's a knock-on effect. The prison system, the university systems, it's exactly the same in everything. It's just the problem's so bad. When I went through the university system and I looked through who's talking and how many terrorists have come out of university, yeah, who are members of the local university Islamic Society, it's about 15 or 20 in the UK. Yeah. It's insane. Every single system that can be used to radicalise is being used.
Do you think this is planned and intentional?
That's intentional. There's no way that you can go to France and have 7% of the country Muslim, 70% of the prisons Muslim. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So similar statistics in Belgium. Similar statistics if you go to the real high-end prisons in the UK. That I believe that our prisons have been targeted for where to radicalise and where to recruit. There is they've been targeted, and the same now will be happening in America. America are a few years behind us, but what America need to understand is in their prison system, it's going to get as bad as ours. Yeah? So you're going to have the toughest men in your community. If you understand the effect that has, so the toughest boy in my community was one of my best friends who converted to Islam, Barry. The estate he was from would have been a bit of a a bit of a resistance to Islam, a bit of resistance to the heroin dealing, a bit of resistance to the pimping gangs. The kids on that estate would resist it.
Yeah.
They'd battle with them. Yeah? Then Barry comes out of prison, he's a Muslim. All of a sudden the resistance is dead.
So if you're in one of those prisons and you don't convert and you just say, oh well...
You get beaten up.
Really? I mean, is that...
So if you want to be safe, and I can tell you again, so I got moved from Wood Hill Prison down to Winchester. Mm-hmm. Now Winchester, the catchment area for Winchester is Portsmouth, Southampton. Anyone who knows the UK knows there's not that many Muslims in that area. If there are Muslims, they don't have the radical jihadist problem that Birmingham, Luton, Bradford, all these other areas, London has. Yeah. So when I went there, there's not as many Muslims. Now I watched white boys come into that prison with big beards, yeah. They'd come on the wing. I was on the induction wing. I was working on the induction wing. So they'd come on the first wing and they'd look around and they'd watch. And they'd, after 2 weeks of assessing it, situation of who controls the prison, how it is, they'd shave their beard off and they'd be eating pork pies on the menu. And I'd go and speak to them. And they've said, mate, I've just come from Bullingdon. Yeah, this kept me safe.
Wow.
Yeah, no one will mess with you if you're a Muslim. Everyone's converted. In Wood Hill, they told me the story of they had a gang of 10 come, this was years ago, a gang of 10 young Muslims come from one of the London prisons into Wood Hill and Milton Keynes, and within a week 60 people are converted because they were just putting on everyone. You convert to us. It's a gang. What other religion can be used as a gang like that? None.
Yeah. But how do you combat that?
Yeah. We're at war and we have an enemy. Okay. That enemy, which they would call Islamist radical jihadists, yeah, they should not be in the normal prison system. Yeah? They shouldn't be. You've got all these terrorists being put in prison, and no one can say, right, if a terrorist gets 10 years, he's going to come out worse in 10 years. We know that.
Yeah.
None of them are straightening up. None of them. They're actually getting more radicalised in prison. Why is he being released? Why are these? If we're at war and this war is ongoing, yeah, why are we releasing these people? Which unfortunately it's not going to be. But they shouldn't be released back into the system. So then it costs us. I think it costs us £9 billion a year at the minute to monitor these people.
America's watching all this very closely and Trump has promised to put an end to it. Is he enough?
Look, when Trump said we need to stop Muslim immigration, yeah, he's just 5 years ahead of the rest. Yeah. So what I'd say comfortably now is that in the coming years, whether it be 5 years or 10 years, all the things I've said, all the things I've stood for, all the things I've been attacked for, will be being pushed for law.
Yeah.
That's it. So Trump may say that now, but there'll come a time in the next 5 years, 6 years, maybe sooner, in Europe, where all other politicians are saying the same. But Gert Wilders says, well, I won't stop the seven countries Trump stopped are failed states. Yeah? Yeah. Failed states, failed Muslim jihadist states that have huge swathes of the country are into terrorism. Yeah? He hasn't stopped Muslim immigration at all. I would. Yeah? Gert Wilders would. Other politicians, I believe...
Well, his ban only affected 14% of the Muslim population.
Yeah, that's
not really Muslim ban at all.
That's not. But then if you read the reasoning, because he didn't mention any countries, yeah. Even if you read what his ban ended on, yeah, it ended on attacks against gay people. Yeah. If you don't, it was basically a ban challenging the ideology of Islam. Yeah. And when they can say that if they don't stand for the Constitution, then their opposite views go against ours. Yeah, they're not going to benefit our country. They're not. If you just look at the polls for whether it be Iraq, whether it be Egypt, it's like 84% of people in those countries, 80 to 90% of people believe women should be stoned for adultery.
It is massive. Yeah,
it's massive. How is bringing these people into America? How is that going to work? How is it going to benefit America? Mm-hmm. How does it benefit the UK to bring tens of thousands of Somalians in who have just abhorrent views, just as backward and disgraceful views?
Yeah.
And yet we're bringing them in as though they're going to benefit our society when they're not.
It's true. I mean, we fought for hundreds of years to end slavery and to give women the right to vote. But I think by importing all these cultures, we're literally reversing all that. I mean, what the left say is that Christianity was just as brutal as Islam, but we just need to give them a little bit more time. What do you say to that?
It's very naive to gamble with our country's safety, security and future. So all these lefties who say, well, they need to
have time to adjust or whatever.
What, you're going to play a gamble with our country for that?
Yeah.
You're going to gamble with my kids' future for what if they don't? Mm-hmm. Okay, well maybe they do, maybe it will. What if it doesn't? It's very different. We've been able to adapt and change the Bible because it's not the specific word. Well, it's not the word of God. Yeah, they will never ever change the Quran. You cannot change it. There's 100 verses that incite murder and war against us. They should be taken out. If you split the Quran in two and you had the Medina and Mecca Quran, yeah, it could work, because Muhammad was peaceful, you know, when he started out.
Yeah.
Okay? He ended on war and jihad.
Yeah.
And we all know that what he said later supersedes what he said earlier.
Yeah.
Which is why we face so many problems. In a society of all of these things, where does it leave the next generation of kids? And that's sort of when I looked at our previous generation, and if you go look through British history and you look at what they went through and what they did to sacrifice and die and willingly die, yeah? Willingly would be, some of them were 14 years old, would be lying about their age so they can run and fight for their country.
Yeah.
And you look at what we've created now, we've created a generation of cowards who are too scared to even open their mouth. And it's infuriating. And where does it leave us? Where does it leave us if we don't tackle it, if we don't stop it? Where does it leave the history of our country? We've got 1,000 years of English history to just be abolished. Look what we've done. Look what we've done to our country and our people. And I draw that back again. Like, I watched a documentary this week and it's on Russian football hooligans. Yeah?
Right.
And the way they spoke of the English. And in fact, a Russian said it to me when I was at the Euros. He said, your grandparents were tough. You were all pussies.
Yeah, that's true.
And when I think about when they said, and what they said is, what we've created, the men we're creating, the way we act and behave and our patriotism, it's embarrassing.
Do you think that we've become a culture that's lost faith in itself? Then?
Well, we've lost identity.
Yeah.
We've lost who we are. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily our fault. So you've got so many kids who are converting to Islam. You've got so many white kids who are now talking like they're black. You've got so many people who are searching for identity, yeah, because they haven't got it. I can tell you, my mum was an Irish immigrant. She come to the UK. Yeah, I only found my identity in football. Yeah, that's how I found who I was. Yeah? Because I wasn't encouraged by my mum. I didn't have a father who was bringing me up to in his culture. Growing up, I watched St Lucian Day was celebrated in my town. I watched the St Patrick's Day had a 3-day festival. I watched Eid have fairgrounds and parks, and I watched St George's Day be banned. Yeah. So, and I watched as the schools would send out letters to the parents telling them on our national day, don't bring in the emblem of St George or your children will be sent home. So then it was like, it's a dirty thing to be English. That's how the English kids are feeling. Yeah? The black kids, they've all got their heads up. Because they're proud. They're allowed to be proud of who they are. They're allowed to be proud of their identity. They're allowed to be proud of their history. They're allowed to be proud of everything about them. Yeah? We're not. And our kids ain't.
So what does the future hold for you? What's next for Tommy Robinson?
So I'm not going to hide, I'm not going to go into hiding, I'm not going to run away from it. I'm going to continue living my life and walking where I want to walk, when I want to walk, on my own. Yeah. If something bad happens, it happens. But at least if it happens in the sense that it happened my way, rather than me hiding like having to be worried by them. So I don't really know about the future. For me personally, I see my role for any working class kids is to help educate them on what's happening.
Yeah.
And get the truth across. So that's all I want to do. If I can, in any way that I can help that people to understand what's happening, people to understand Islam, people to understand the problems we're going to face. I think if everyone in the UK understood what the future holds for us, there'd be a revolution tomorrow. It's just that most of them are oblivious to it.
Tommy, there's so much to talk about, but we have to end it there. I mean, we haven't even covered free speech or feminism or social justice. I mean, if we really wanted to, I think we'd be carrying on for hours and hours talking about all this, and I think our viewers might get a little bit bored. Or maybe not. If you'd like to hear more from Tommy, let us know in the comments below. Tommy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.